What's up, y'all? So, as promised, I'm doing a reaction video to BC's 2-minute video he put out a few days ago on relationships. And first thing I want to say is, BC, this is such a nuanced, complex topic. And I know that you're aware of that. I didn't expect a 2-minute video to fully represent your point of view. So, there may be some assumptions here that I'm kind of forced to make because of the shortness and the depth of your video. So this will be a great clarifying conversation, number one. Number two, I do think you're a good guy. I think your heart is in the right place. And there are some things I agree with, and there are some things I strongly disagree with. So let's get into it.
All right, so this one may trigger a lot of people, but when my wife has a crush on someone, she tells me all about it.
All right, we're just gonna pause right there. So crush. Now, BC, maybe this is clickbait, right? I don't know. Maybe this is a way to get someone totally hooked and you don't mean crush, but maybe you do. And what I'd like to hear from you is a definition of terms, right? What does crush mean? Is it there's a physical attraction to someone, right? This is unavoidable. I personally wouldn't call that a crush. My wife and I, we don't have an issue going, oh, that person's attractive, that person's attractive. We don't have an issue acknowledging that. We don't necessarily need to verbalize it at this point, but there's no issue with that. Especially for men, the part of their brain that controls the sex drive is twice as big as a female's. So it's normal to have little pings of, oh, that person's attractive, that person's attractive. Now, the question is, what do you do about it? How do you respond to it? And I'm getting kind of ahead of myself because I know what's coming in the video. But when we start to mm, give that attention and expand and emote and express, we're actually fueling something that can create an open door in a relationship. And I'm going to save that for later in the video. But what I want to come back to is this word crush. Now, when I think of crushing, I think of, okay, there's probably attraction, but there's also probably some sense of affinity, connection, rapport. Now, if there's affinity and rapport and attraction, typically there's flirting. And we look at that and we go, okay, there's probably flirting there. Now, this is where I have to make an assumption that having a playful, you can call it, some people call it, oh, it's not flirting, it's just playful. This is where we have to be radically honest with ourselves, right? There is never a moment I can find where it's justified and right for me to be playfully flirty with anyone besides my wife. And this is because the sanctity of marriage is to put all of that energy onto my wife and actually starve the animal in me, not neglect, not avoid, not try to transcend, but not feed into the animal impulse. And there's a purifying that happens, right? And so I need to know, okay, what does crush mean? If it's flirting, then what that's doing is, well, number one, flirting is inherently sexual. So now there's a sharing of sexual energy. And if there's a sharing of sexual energy, like, oh, I'm a little turned on, you're a little turned on, but we're not crossing any boundaries. We're not kissing. This isn't an open relationship. Well, in that moment, there is an opening of some unspoken reciprocal exchange that is inherently sexual. So I perceive that as a lack of containment. A woman is not being contained. The woman is not containing her sexual energy or the man. And then if I need to bring all that to my wife or my partner to feel okay with it, it's like I'm avoiding the shame because we know, I'll just speak for myself, I know inherently that's not right. And so then I'll bring it to my partner to relieve myself of the shame. So again, these are all the nuances and some assumptions that I have. That's all I can really get without knowing y'all. But what I'm saying is this is a very slippery slope that leads in that direction. Okay, well, if we just open the door a little bit where we can exchange and kind of flow this energy, but boundaries aren't being crossed, there's still an open door. And you can't have an open door and union at the same time. So yes, transparency, a trait of union. Honesty, characteristic of union. But open doors, It's not union anymore, right? So let's keep watching here.
Right? And I love it. And I'm here for it. And vice versa. If I have a crush on someone, I tell my wife all about it. And I know in the old paradigm of relationships that wouldn't work because there's jealousy, there's insecurity.
Okay, let's talk about this. So this is where, and I saw BC in your comments, you were talking about control. Love is not controlling. It's true. But men are territorial, and we can't discount our nature. In fact, if we think being territorial is controlling, I would agree with you. Control is not loving, but being territorial is not only loving, but it's a man's nature. So to not be territorial is to throw out your maleness. Men are naturally aggressive. They're naturally territorial. They're naturally assertive. They're naturally higher energy. They're naturally protective. And this is biology. The male side of the brain, the territorial center, the temporal lobe, is all about territory. We are wired to provide a territory for our woman. That could be home, money, it could be resources, it could be attention, it could be a love, truth telling. I mean, there's different levels. We can start talk about the animal level and then the higher levels of provision. And so that providership happens because men don't have the same kind of biological value as women. A female's biological value is she can procreate, she can bring life into this world. A man's biological value is he can protect and provide for that woman that then is safe enough to procreate, to have children. So there's a perfect order that happens when maleness and femaleness come together. Now, if we start to disrupt that order by making male traits wrong or bad or not spiritual, what we're doing is we're trying to transcend our animal nature in the name of spirituality, which actually represses our maleness, which will make a female feel not safe on the instinctual level. And then you have disorder, right? Because in nature, and we'll just look at the male female relationship, opposites attract for a reason, because the opposites, when they come together, produce order for a household, for a child. So let's talk about the difference between control and territory, being territorial. Men are territorial only over things they number one, they love, but they consider theirs. So my woman, I do consider her mine. Yes, there is a level of ownership, and she loves that. She loves that. I've been in previous relationships where I didn't feel that, oh, I don't care, I don't get jealous, go do this and do that. Yeah, that was not a fun place for her. She's over there going, am I even claimed? Do you even care if I'm just connecting with this guy? And oh, boundaries aren't being crossed, but he's interested. I can tell he's flirting and I have an open door to it, and you're not territorial over that. Man, I don't feel safe. And I didn't get that at the time because it was like, oh, that's jealousy, that's insecure. I can't, I gotta shut that down. Or I really didn't care too much about that woman. So she wasn't really my territory, right? So being territorial comes from this deep urge to protect. And I'll give this example. Natalie, my wife, she posted one time online and was showing, in my opinion, too much skin. What do I mean by too much skin? Something that would signal to a man, I'm still available even though I'm in relationship. Now, I knew it came from an innocent place. I knew she didn't actually do that because I know her. And I called her, and she was in Mexico at the time. And I called her and said, sweetheart, I really don't feel comfortable with what you just posted. This is kind of like, this is the impulse that it's giving. This is the message that it's kind of giving. She goes, what? It's like she couldn't even comprehend that. I didn't know that. I didn't know this gives that kind of, message to men that even though I'm in a relationship, there's a door open because I'm showing my skin kind of online. And I go, yeah, that is what it gives. How do I know that? Because I am one, because I'm a man. And then what happened? So she took it down and she says, thank you for correcting me. Thank you for correcting me. So I don't know about you, BC. I don't know if your woman is submissive in her nature. But what I've learned is the more a woman feels safe to submit, Well, the safer they feel, the more turned on they are, the more happy they are, the more contained they are. And they actually need that, because in the female side of the brain, with territorial conflicts, now, if you don't understand this language, you can go to my page and learn about German New Medicine. But I've worked with hundreds of women that have these conflicts, and you could see them on brain scans. A female orients her identity around, who do I belong to, where a man is more, where do I belong, and where does my service and my gifts, my providership belong? Hers is, who do I belong to? That question. Is there some man on the planet that will protect me just in case I'm in a vulnerable position? Why do they have that thought? Because females are physically weaker than males. It's not a judgment, it's just biology. It's testosterone. Males, they're physically stronger muscularly, but they almost have twice as much of bone density. So females have an instinctual fear of men. Why? Because they know they can be overpowered, dominated, if it came down to it. And obviously, we have thousands of years of that evidence. I often have these rooms with a lot of women, and I'm going to say, how many women here in the last 2 months felt unsafe around a man? And almost every single one raises their hand. And I go, what about men being unsafe around women, or even other men? Almost no one raises their hand, right? So if a woman gets pregnant, that's a really vulnerable state. She will actually become dependent biologically. So she needs to know, okay, I belong to a man that is going to protect, provide, contain, support, and love me, that I feel safe around. And containment is a huge part of that. And feeling claimed is a huge part of that. And having a territorial man is a big part of that. So the difference, control, is I'm controlling you because I'm afraid of something, because of my own insecurity. Where being territorial is, I'm protecting our relationship. I'm doing this because I love you, and this kind of behavior or being sends this signal, and you might not see it. It's lending your woman your sight, which is one of the roles of a man, at least in his maleness, is to see what she can't see, and that's going to happen in the same way from a female to a male. And so Natalie said, thank you for that correction. I didn't know that it sends that signal. I wouldn't want you to send that signal to people either. And she took it down. And then guess what happened over the next 10, 15 minutes? She got a message from a man that she used to date. Hey, da-da-da-da-da. So why is that loving? Because that's the kind of thing that, as long as there's a door open to that, why open the door? Just find one reason that, if that post does elicit that kind of response, find one good reason to keep doing it. Now, one reason might be, well, you like the attention. Well, I'm not going to be with a woman who needs that kind of male attention and that is not satiated just from me, right? And that's her shadow to look at. You see, so the territorialness is, if you continue that, it's going to end our relationship. And I'm here to protect our relationship and say, that thing right there is not totally in truth, because this is the dynamic it's going to create. And is that what you're intending to create? And is that what you want? And her answer was no. And she didn't even see it. So that's not control. She agreed to it. She wanted that. In fact, she was so thankful. Wow, thank you for correcting me. I felt so respected and honored in that moment. And she felt so protected and safe. So there's a big difference here. Men are naturally territorial. They're naturally aggressive. They're naturally possessive, and they should be. These are not toxic masculine traits. These are traits that feminine women love. So let's keep going. I know that was a long rant.
There's fear and control and walking on eggshells. That doesn't work and will never work. The new paradigm of relationships is divine unions, is sacred transparency, where everything is safe, everything is sacred to be felt, to be expressed, to be thought, where there's clear communication and zero shame and zero judgment. Now, if someone creates a stimulation within our body, like an opposite sex, a woman creates a sexual charge or an emotional charge or a physical charge within my body, that energy has to go somewhere. What most most men do in relationships is we suppress it, we numb it, we shame it. We're like, oh, I shouldn't feel this. I have a partner. And that's where everything explodes. That's where addiction happens. That's where cheating happens. We no longer feel safe to express certain things that we're feeling. If that energy happens within me, I have to share it with my wife. I have to.
Okay, so it's this word and energy. I have to share this with my wife. Now, I understand what's behind that, right? It's like there's, I feel an attraction to someone. Okay. Now, if you weren't conflicted about that, BC, then attraction would arise and fall. To think that you need to do something about that, right? I need to get this sensation out implies the sensation can't just be there, or that it's wrong, or that it's bad. My wife knows, look, my sex drive is twice as big as yours. I'm going to find women attractive. I'm going to have that ping. But it's a ping and it arises and falls and I don't do anything about it. I don't act on it. And I'm at peace with it. It's okay. It's going to come up. It's just my nature. I'm actually not even doing it. And that's the truth. Now, here's something really interesting. Number one, if I, oh God, I'm going in so many directions. Number one, if I feel like I need to share it with her in order for me to process it, I'm now becoming emotionally dependent on my wife. That could make her feel really unsafe. Look, I need to share this for me, not for you, for me, which at times that's great. But if that's the way through, that's not a permanent resolution. That's a strategy that has to never end. So it's like, okay, this thing needs to come up. Okay, now the only way I can release it is with my wife. Now there will be a felt sense for a man over time of a kind of weakness or wrongness, like I'm dependent, right? Females are wired to be more dependent. Males are wired to be independent. Together, there's an interdependence. Men are wired to leave the nest and come back. And hold on one second. Men are wired to leave the nest and come back. Women are wired mostly to not necessarily need to leave the nest. This is the biological wiring. So if I start to feel dependent on Natalie for my emotional processing, that will give her the signal, I need you. Now, women are wired to need. Men are wired to be needed. Right? Women are more needy naturally, and this is a good thing. A masculine man loves his needy woman, right? Because to a man, his ability to provide a territory is affirming his maleness. Let me be a man. Let me give to you. Let me love you. I'm wired to love you. You're wired to be loved, not the other way around. Obviously, she will reciprocate that love and the love will be mutual. But it's natural for a man to be that initiator, right? So now, and it's also natural then for that woman to expose her heart to him and to bring all of her emotions to him and for him to love her through it. There's a natural kind of reparenting that happens. But in relationships, opposites attract, like qualities repel. So if I become dependent on my woman, especially emotionally, I will push her away. No matter what, eventually I will push her away if she feels like I need her specifically for that. Because to be more emotional, not that men don't have emotions, but if there's a feeling of I have to, then usually underneath that, it's like a bit of being unstable. And if I'm bringing that to my wife to resolve it, I'm starting to be in more of a feminine role. Okay, it's not wrong or bad. It's just the more that I flex that muscle, the more she's going to feel like, oh, he needs me for his emotional state. And most women, that's going to hit this instinctual, am I safe? Right. So I'm not making any of it wrong or bad. But again, a female is more emotional naturally. High estrogen is to be emotional, it's to be more needy, it's to be more dependent. When men start to feel a lot of emotion, they get a spike of estrogen. And again, there's nothing wrong with feeling an emotion. What I'm telling you is if you have two people doing that, I mean, I'll just ask every woman that's watching this, if your man became incredibly needy, and I'm not saying BC you're doing this, but I think this can lead to that. This is the slippery slope. If you're needy, man, I just need you. I need you. I'm so needy. Does that attract a woman or repel? Right? Of course, it's going to repel. Female traits in men repel feminine women. Male traits in women repel masculine men. So let's keep going.
Express it some way. I have to alchemize it in a space where I'm not going to feel judged or shamed or controlled or belittled. And my wife and I, we're best friends before we're anything else. So if my wife comes to me and goes, oh my God, I was DJing this event, I met this guy and he was really cool, we had this kind of cool connection, I'd be like, what? Tell me more. I'm interested in what you're experiencing as a human. Like you're a beautiful soul on your own human experience. And yes, we have kids together. And yes, we're madly in love with each other. But there's zero lack. There in the spiritual space, there is no jealousy. There is no insecurities.
Okay, so again, it's like if you discount your urge to be territorial over your woman in the name of spirituality, you're suppressing the human animal. And this is about integration. This is about fully acknowledging your maleness. Actually, that's what allows you to not be dictated by your biology, number one, but number two, the shadow version of it come out. It won't be distorted or inverted. So if my woman came home and was like, oh my God, I had this connection with this guy and it was so great. And, like I was kind of crushing on him. That would not be okay. In no universe would that be okay. Because my question to her is why? Why do you feel the need or urge to engage in that kind of dynamic? What are you getting from it? And she might say connection, right? Or fun. Okay, now we're looking at a hierarchy of values. If it's connection, my question to her would be, do you need to have crushes, which does open a door, which is inherently sexual, which in our union, we have a very specific purpose of our sexuality, and it's to give it only to each other. And now we have a baby on the way. And guess what happens when a man only gives his sexual energy to one woman that he feels territorial over? He starts getting spikes of prolactin. What does prolactin do? It makes him not interested in other women. So men with sex addictions, when they're in love with their woman's their best friend, their sexual match, their mate, they want to commit their whole life to them, right? There's a natural biochemical process that allows him to balance out and live in right relationship to his sexuality, and it's called having sex with your wife. And you will lose interest in other women naturally, right? So I kind of forgot what this is insecurities, right? So for a man to go, look, I'm not okay with that. That's not an insecurity. That's saying I want to protect our relationship, because if you're opening that door, where does that end? Right? This is what leads to polyamory. This is what leads to open relationships. This is what leads to all of that. And just in a really subtle way, it's kind of like the book Outwitting the Devil. I haven't actually read it, but I just remember the concept explained of like, just let a little bit of this in. Oh, and just a little more. That's fine. You're not crossing any boundaries. But then 5 years from now, you end up way over here. You go, how did we get here? And that's really what I see is happening. So for me to say, honey, why would you do that? Oh, connection. Oh, I just want to have connection. Okay. Well, connection for us is not something we get from other people. It's something we get from God. And that's why we have Christ at the center of our relationship. So we're not starving for connection in the way that requires us to flirt. If I ever notice someone wants to flirt with me, my energy is so sealed that it instantly discourages them from flirting. And they will instantly know also that I have a wife, because I'll mention her. And then it's like, now you can connect as a human without an agenda, but that's not crush. That's not flirting. That's just two humans connecting. So there can still be connection. But the flirting, the crushing, all of that is an unsealed, open door invitation. And I think it could be incredibly destructive. And when a man agrees to it, he's being emasculated and he's emasculating himself. And that over time literally looks like testosterone decreases, estrogen rises. It literally affects the brain, the temporal lobes. And when estrogen rises, men become more needy and unstable like women. I hear already women are going to be upset that I said that. But what I'm pointing to biologically is women have a monthly cycle. They are, by definition, more emotional. Their nervous systems are twice as dense as men's. So there's just a biological fact. And for me, I love it. I love the full range of my woman. She brings color to my life. So this is about coming out of denial of our nature and embracing it. And when two people actually agree to that, then you get stability, order, connection, love, provision, safety, not through trying to transcend our nature, not by trying to get away from the old paradigm. Why is the old paradigm the old paradigm? Because some of it is rooted in truth and we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So let's keep going.
Or doubts or fears, because that's only coming from a place of lack, of you complete me. If you leave me, I'm going to die. You are my other half. That cannot exist, because the less self-love we have within ourselves, the more control we're going to have within our.
See, here's the thing. Self-love, right? I already know, BC, again, you have a great heart, but there is no such thing as self-love, right? This is all new age crap. And what I mean by that is I can't sit there and go, okay, the way that I feel love is by me using my willpower to love myself. Now there's two selves, right? How do I love myself? Oh, I just accept it. How do I accept something that I don't accept? You don't will yourself to love yourself. You don't will yourself to accept yourself. This is the world of affirmations and just new age bullshit. You are loved by God. And when you stop trying to love yourself or trying to get love, earn it, deserve it, when you stop trying to work on, okay, I need to love me, which is making you into God. No, you are loved. And the core of you, of your essence, is love. That's you made in the image. So even the will to love yourself is too much work. Who would you be in the absence of that? Who would you be in the absence of I need to try to love myself? Well, I would just see everything honestly as it is. And if I'm not fighting it, if I'm not trying to love this and this and learning how to love myself, it's a trap. Then I would just already acknowledge and accept what is here. But accepting is not something you do. It's not an act of your will. What you do is you resist. That's an act of the will, fighting against, judging. So it's like, oh, the more self-love I develop, the less insecure I'll be. And now it's my job to build up all this love so I can be less insecure. When in reality, it's like, no, actually fully acknowledging what's here in the absence of trying to change any of it or to be some perfectly self-loved person is actually love. And the greatest doorway to that is Jesus Christ, the greatest act of love that can be demonstrated in the physical experience is what Jesus Christ experienced. And if he came to reveal the nature of God, what does that say about you? How loved you are? And when you let that in, what happens is then you have the proclivity naturally to let it out, to flow it out. And you can't ever be the same. You're not going to look for connection in people. You are connected. That's just the state. And if you don't feel connected, you don't go try to find that in a person. You go to God. See, notice I'm not trying to love myself. That's an act of the ego. Only the ego can try to love itself. There's a lot of nuances here. Let's keep going.
Partner. And that will always end up pushing us further away. If my wife's like, did you check out that girl's butt? I'm like, yeah, and so are you. And look at that hot guy over there. Like, there's humor in all of it. There's humor in our jealousy and insecurity and our doubts and our fears.
Again, the more you feed it, the more it grows, right? I don't remember the exact Bible verse, but it was something like, if your eye is lustful, gouge it out. Now, what does that mean? If I notice, and I'm guilty just like any other male on the planet, of having that reaction of, oh, body parts, huh? But I notice it. There's no judgment. It's just a noticing, and then I'm back. I don't need to do anything about it. In fact, the more you feed it, the more it's like, oh yeah, let's energize that. Now, again, this could be useful if you genuinely feel shame around it. Wow, I just looked at that person and I'm having all this shame come up. I need to work through it. That's fine. Even if it's taking you out of the moment, it's fine to presence that as well. But I don't think the solution here is to put so much attention on it and then leave it as something that can lead to crushes, which is a way of taking that initial impulse and actually acting on it. And it's that acting on it that creates an open door.
Yes, if there's lying and cheating involved, it'll never work, and that's a way different story, but hopefully your union.
Okay, again, what did Jesus come to fulfill? The law, right? The law of Moses, but he also came to upgrade it. And one of the upgrades is cheating is not just, I'm going to go sleep with someone. It's, I'm going to lust after them in my mind. Now, again, this isn't about not having an impulse. An impulse will come. But then if I play into it, or if it goes into fantasy, or if it goes into something that I'm now actively engaging in beyond my animal instincts, then that's a form of cheating energetically, right? So, again, we need to create a higher standard of what union actually is. And I don't think it can exist in some of these really outdated, kind of new agey, loose, agreeable. It's all about just love and connection. Okay, but then what's the purpose of your marriage? Right? The purpose of our marriage is to purify the ego, purify the wounded self by focusing, giving all of that attention on one person and letting the animal in us starve, not from judgment, not from I hate you, not from you're bad or wrong, just the natural atrophy that happens when your single pointed love is with God and then expressed and given to your woman. It naturally atrophies. And then you become more self-sacrificial of your own accord. You become more selfless, and you just don't need that external validation. And you become more godly and holy, and you start to build the kingdom. And then your kids are born into the kingdom of love and truth and containment. And then they see this example. I mean, here's the thing, imagine, and I've seen kids do this. Kids are very territorial over their parents. If your child was watching, your wife DJ, or you flirt with someone or crush on someone, how would they feel? Very unsafe. Undeniably, very unsafe. If they could pick up on that energy, if they're old enough, sensitive enough, they'll feel very unsafe. So let's keep going.
And your relationship and integrity with each other would never even get close to that. And I think this has to be the new paradigm. And maybe I'm crazy. It's not about open relationships. It's about open conversations. It's about realizing that we are complex, unique, diverse goulash of human beings. And anytime we fear the human experience or shame it or suppress it or numb it, it always explodes and blows up in our face in so many unhealthy ways. And so I hope we're entering in new relationships where we're extremely self-aware, self-sovereign, and although we love the union with.
Yeah, so let me, again, back to this sovereign piece. Maleness and femaleness. What allows a female to feel sovereign? It's not feminism. It's not independence, hyper independence especially. It's the feeling of I belong to a man, that if I push a boundary or limit, he will correct me because he loves me and he loves our relationship, and I can't walk all over him. I can't, my ego, my yearning outside of God can't exist here. And so my only choice is to face myself and be purified, or to rebel. And when I face myself and I can see that he's doing this from a place of love, I will respect him. And when I respect him, I will want to submit to him. And what is submission? It just means, okay, if this man sees something that's true, right? It can't be untrue, it can't be from control or domination. Sees something that's true that actually is for the betterment of our relationship. That's also for the betterment of me, that I will let go of something of lower value for something of higher value. That's what submission is. The lower value is validation, ego, or a momentary, experience of connection with the crush, with the flirty energy, right? That I will give that up for deeper connection, to deeper containment, and to feel more possessed by him in the positive sense. We think we hear these words and they're so polarizing to the new age psyche. But a woman feels most safe when she feels like I am so claimed and contained by my man, and he's not doing it to control me. He sees the untruth that would keep me out of my full surrendered open self. And the female has her own version of that for a man, but I'm speaking specifically from maleness here because I'm speaking to BC. And so a woman feels most free when she's most contained. A woman feels most free when she's most claimed. A woman feels most free when her man is territorial, not from domineering, not from anger, but from a rightful assertion of his maleness because he cares about you, he loves you, and he's a man. He knows what signals you're giving off, even if you're not doing it consciously, and what that's going to invite. And it's simply going to invite sexual male attention. My question is why would you want to agree to that? Why? If it's inviting it, it's going to show up. Your relationship is already open, if that's the case. It just hasn't turned into a physical manifestation yet.
In our partner, we also know that they are in their own human experience as well. And we can't shame it. We can't suppress it. We can't numb it. We can't avoid it or run from it. So I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions below. I know a lot of people probably disagree with this, or maybe this triggers them, but gotta start somewhere. I love you guys. Peace.
So that's it. All in all, I know this was a long video, BC. I think what you're pointing to in the sense of let's be honest and transparent, 100% good. The two main things, the feeling of I have to alchemize this with my wife is going to repel her eventually. It's probably very refreshing in the beginning, and it probably breeds a kind of trust. Oh, look how much I trust him. But if it becomes the main way of operating, you're not going to go beyond it. We're going to depend on that dynamic, and where there's a kind of dependency, there's not in the sense of I have to depend on this ritual, this kind of expression with you to move energy. And typically we're masking something, or it will create a dynamic where I push her away. Number one. Number two, crush, flirting is opening a door. It is a kind of cheating, in my opinion. And the question is, why agree to it? And if you have God, especially Christ, but God at the center of your relationship as the source of connection, then why need that connection from other people, specifically with the flavor of crushing and flirting? Why need it? Why do you need it? That's the question to ask. And who would I be if I didn't need that? Right? And what kind of signal does that send? And what it does to a man over time, again, I guess this is number 3, is emasculation. It's bad for me to be territorial. It's bad for me to be possessive. It's bad for me to be protective. No, it's not. What happens is you'll start to play God. You go, no, my maleness, how I'm designed, my impulse to be territorial is wrong. That's how you were designed. That's how God designed you. So now you're playing God. No, this is the right way. My impulses are wrong, right? My natural instincts are wrong. And that's not true for a man. In fact, the total embracing of the instinct allows you to use it rightfully. Just go, what is actually underneath it? And always for a man, I'm talking about his instincts, not his mind, not his unconscious fears. I'm talking about his instincts are never wrong. There's no such thing as wrong instincts. There's just an instinct. It's on or it's off. And if the instinct says protect, do something, respond here, there's a way to be in right relationship with that, right? Now, obviously, the instinct that says, oh, I need to go impregnate every woman on the planet, we look at that, we ask the question, why? Why? Is that valid, or is that just an impulse? It's just an impulse. It's an instinct. So we don't want to be ruled by our instincts. But in terms of, and this is in the territorial center, this is a different area of the brain. It's the most recent development embryologically of the brain, the temporal lobes. This is more about territory, or one of the most recent. more about territory and how to relate to territory. And when a man is in his maleness, a female can go into her femaleness. The only reason a male biologically comes out of his maleness is because he's emasculated. A female will come out of her femaleness because it wasn't safe. She was attacked, dominated, not protected, not provided for. So she'll become more male to be not so she's not a threat. And also, so it's harder for her to reproduce, because why would you reproduce if it's not safe? And a man, if he's emasculated, will become less territorial. Just just enjoy the connection. You're a sovereign human being. I want you to have that connection. And that's the trade-off, is his maleness. And the only time temporal lobe maleness shuts down, is from highly acute traumatic events. We call them DHS, or hammer foci, that you could see on the brain that testosterone goes down. Well, you're not going to be that territorial if your testosterone goes down. So if we reaffirm the maleness and we check ourselves honestly, okay, is this coming from control or love? For knowing and having a clear definition of what is the purpose of marriage, how it's sacred, how when it's absolutely contained, you get the greatest degree of purification and holiness between you and that person. And if two people come together in a union like that, that's a blueprint for world peace. And you bring up a child, and that's the most radical thing you can do to change the world. So if that's my goal, there is absolutely no room for flirting or crushing, because that, not by my will, that naturally gets starved when I'm in the presence of my union with God at the center. I just don't need it, and I'm not available for it. Someone can bring it towards me, but it's not my source of connection. I don't need it. So I'm sealed, but I can still connect. But guess what? What kind of people must I attract? People that just want to connect with me for me, not with any sexual energy. And that's rightful, in my opinion. So thank you for watching. BC, if you want to do a podcast, let me know. Thanks for reaching out. Again, I think you're a good guy. It's not personal. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments.